So, just a quick recap. Last time we left off, we were running side to side, got a door, didn't open, let's pick up a key, and then we have our little platform that I can jump on, and it'll take me up. And then if I leave the uh, trigger volume, it'll bring me back down. All right. Um, Today we're going to go ahead and add an obstacle or a hazard of some sort to this. Um, so we're gonna go really simple, no like AI or anything just yet. We will add some then. This is gonna just be like a basic thing you gotta avoid. Like old school like shells or fireballs in Mario.
Nice.
Um, Go ahead and make a new actor. Go ahead and call this bouncing hazard. And we'll go ahead and pop this open real quick. So first things first, I'm gonna add a collision sphere. Got the roots. Go ahead and also add a, actually, make that the root, and then also set this to be block all dynamic, at least for now. Probably change that. And then we're gonna go ahead and add a static mesh. You can add a skeletal mesh if you want to. I'm just gonna do a static mesh for now. And then I'll go ahead and pick a cube.
Hmm.
Not that cube. Yeah, I like that cube. That one. And we'll go ahead and set this to half its original size, and I'll set this to 50 on the radius, not the scale, radius. Simply because if I were to say double the size scale wise here, you'll notice the cube got bigger too.
Damn.
That is not helpful. So change the radius, and I can adjust the size of this sphere without playing with the scale of the children. All right. So now we have a thing, and we got a visual part of it. So I'm gonna go to the event. Oh, I'm also gonna add the movement part of this now. So just like before, we could program like a sine wave and have this bounce up and down and like check to see if I hit the ground yet and do a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna bother with that. I'm gonna just go ahead and add a projectile movement component. And then over here in the details panel, this will give me a bunch of options. So my initial speed, I'm gonna go with, let's say 300, max speed 300. Super important that you set the max speed to be at least as high as the initial speed. If the initial speed is higher than max speed, initial speed will be clamped to max speed. So super important. I'm gonna go ahead and click the rotation follows velocity. So it's gonna rotate and the direction that I'm trying to get it to go. I'm gonna go ahead and check this because I want to spin on the yaw. Uh, Local velocity is fine, and then gravity scale is 1, perfect. I'm gonna set should bounce because I want this to bounce. My bounciness is currently 0.6 by default. I'm gonna make that a 1 because I don't want to lose bounces. I want him, I want him to bounce up to the exact same height that he just bounced to, perpetual motion style. Friction, I'm also going to set to 0 because I don't want them to stop I don't want there to be any friction when they hit the ground and like them to slow down or quit moving. So 0 friction, 1 bounciness. And turn on should bounce. And then the last part of this we need to do, currently this is set to move on the x-axis or like its local x-axis, which is fine. So whenever you spin this around, it's going to move on its local X to move forward. We want to constrain this to a plane, and I'm going to go ahead and set this to Y, which basically means that it can't move on the Y-axis. So it'll stay in our 2D space that we define. You can also just set this to 1 right here, because you'll notice if I put this back to custom and set it like this is how it was. It's all zeros. When I set this to Y, it just changes this here. So same setting. Just tell it which axis you're trying to constrain. So now that this is set up, I'm going to, just for now, just for now, I'm going to add an arrow. Just so we can see which way it's facing. I'll save. Oh, also gotta, by default, this is hidden in game, so I'm gonna turn that off so we can actually see this. Again, I'm gonna delete this later. I just want to be able to test it. And now if we slide back here and drop this into the world. And hit play. Alright. So right now it's not doing anything when when it hits me or if I jump on it or anything. So that'll be our next thing. Is anybody confused about how this works?
Everyone got, yeah, we'll all have it, yeah. It's looking cool.
All right. And then again, and we'll swap this out for like a fireball with eyes or Goomba or whatever. But this is just a really simple way to get a moving thing that can damage you. So our next little step here is going to be number 1. I want to which part of the movement component? We start out with our setting our speeds, telling the rotation to follow the direction we're moving, telling it to only use the Z-axis or yaw, and then turning on bounciness, setting our bounciness to 1 so that we don't actually lose anything, setting our friction to 0 so we don't stop, and then constraining to the Y-axis. I'm actually going to bump the speed on this guy a little bit. We're going to go to 500. And then over here on the event graph, we're going to do some stuff. So I'm going to go with so there's a couple ways to do this. We can do event hit, and this will return when this sphere bumps into something else. And then I can check to see what the other thing was and where the hit was, and we can do stuff with that. And I can basically determine, did they just jump on me or did I just hit them? So first thing I'm going to do is check to see if the other thing is my character. So we're going to cast to third-person character. And then this will let me know, was it the character? I now have, I then have the hit location, the hit normal, and I also have just the regular hit information. So if I right click and split this open, it gives me my regular rainbow with all the other information about the thing. I don't really care about that stuff so much. I'm probably going to. So there's a couple ways we can do this. I can take the hit location and see if the hit location is above the well, it depends actually. I'm trying to decide if I even care. I'm thinking I don't care. I'm thinking we're gonna just hurt you if I hit you at all. I think I like that better. Also trying to decide if I want this to be something you can jump on like that, or if I want this to just go through you as the character but bounce against stuff in the level. I'm thinking that's the way I'm going to go with this. So static mesh here, we're going to set to no collision because I don't need you to do anything actually. I'm going to go to the sphere here and we're going to set custom collision. I'm going to actually not use this one. We're going to do with overlap instead. So actor overlap, as opposed to component overlap. Component overlap will fire for literally every other component of the other actor. So when the third person character walks through, this is going to fire at least 2 or 3 times, depending on if it hits like the skeletal mesh, the sphere, the spring arm, camera. Like if any of these things go through, it'll register each time, and it'll give you more information than we actually need at this point. This one will just fire if any part of this actor is overlapped by any part of another actor, and will simply tell me about the other actor. That's all I really care about right now, so I'm not going to bother with the component version. I just want to know one time, hey, somebody else overlapped with me. And then if it was in fact the other character, then I'm going to apply damage to this character. And then I'm going to decide if I want this to die or not. I'm gonna just hard code the 10. No, we'll do that. So there we go. Base damage, nice. So perfect. All right. So this is a built-in function. This works on all actors. So I can just get a reference to something and say I apply damage to it. I don't even actually need the third person reference to do this. The third person is just a check to make sure that it is my character. But it's not actually necessary. The next part of this is I have to decide if I want this to die afterwards. So do I want to destroy this actor? Or do I want to have this kind of just float on by? And I'm thinking we're going to just float on by and stay alive. So you can't just take a hit and like the obstacle's gone, it's going to stay there and keep dead. And then to make that work, I'm going to go to my sphere here. My custom setting is going to be ignore pawn. Or no, I have an overlap pawn, sorry. And we're going to block everything else, so I'll bounce off of that. Good stuff. All right. So now that this part is set up, let me go ahead and check by. We're going to go to our third person character. And in here we're going to type in event, any damage. Now, when you take when you do event any damage, this is going to be triggered by apply damage or apply radial damage or any of the damage events, essentially. If they're called on this class, this is what we'll do to handle that. This is going to give me the amount of damage I've just taken. For right now, I'm going to just print that out, and we're going to handle setting up health here in a minute. So let's go ahead and print out the amount of damage it was, and to make sure we differentiate, we're going to set that to red. Compile, save, and then if we hit play,
Oh, punished.
you see it said 10 in the corner, and it's doing a weird little glitchy thing we're going to fix in a second. Alright, but it is registering and it is damaging my character, so that's what we want for him. This guy, I'm just going to tell you to stop doing that, actually. So, if I'm pretty sure, let me double check real fast, but that should stop doing that now. Okay, good. I'm not sure why he just did that weird little move, but oh, because I'm stepping on it, that's why. Okay. We'll deal with that at some point. The why is whatever, I'm not gonna worry about it. Yeah, so if you click on the camera boom and tell it to not do the collision test, it'll stop snapping in front of stuff. Which we don't want it to do anyway, so that works. Does anybody have any questions about making this apply damage or go through the character without like turning around because they hit the character?
Jordan.
So is your sphere set to overlap stuff? If it's still set to block, then it'll be a hit and it won't be an overlap. So overlap won't fire. Okay, so it's set to overlap pawn like mine. All right, and the static mesh itself is set to no collision because that'll stop the overlaps too if it's. All right. And so like, you're sure the actor overlaps not firing. It's not that the cast is failing. All right, go ahead and share your screen quick. So that's no. All right, click on the sphere for me. Okay. All right. Do me a favor. Slide left a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that works anyway.
Oh yeah, that's a problem. But yeah. Not, is that line, is that lined up correctly? Like, is it actually like on the same line as you guys? Looks like it's working. Alright. Uh, should have been close enough, but we'll see. What's not doing it? Alright. Wait. Zoom back out a little bit. So, the event any damage is supposed to be on your character, not on this.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so yeah, go to the third person folder. Yep, third person character. And then paste that in here, and then go ahead and compile and try it now.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, so when you apply damage, you're damaging the target, and then on the target class, you need to have, how you're going to deal with that damage. So event any damage. The way you have it set up before, somebody could have damaged the cube, and that's something we may or may not set up. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, that's good. Alright, we might go back to my screen. All right, so
I've got a question. Dave.
Yep.
this is now
Uh,
bouncing and applying damage to our character. Um,
hey, Christian Yo's got a question too. Let's see what we got.
what comes out of event any damage? Um, right now it's just print string, but it's gonna give me how much damage you did. So over here I'm telling it how much damage. It's also gonna tell me the damage type. If there was a special type for that, so I can assign a class and it'll generate me a damage type object, and it lets you do more advanced sort of things. It also returns the instigator and the damage causer. So the damage causer would be like the bullet or the fireball, whatever it was. The instigator would be like the player controller who was in charge of that. So like, if I shot the gun, then that would be it. It was instigated by me. So that's what it's giving you back. So you can decide like, all right, well, if this was instigated by somebody on my team, then I don't want to do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if the bullet was owned by somebody on my team or whatever. It depends on what you pass through on this. Or if the damage type was lightning, then I don't want to whatever. So yeah, this is just kind of basic stuff you can mess with. This little like server icon here basically means that this is a server only event, which means that this, if you do this in multiplayer, you have to like this will fire on the server, then you'll have to do a multicast or like tell the clients about the fact that there was damage. But basically just means this is multiplayer good to go. How do you get damage to come? You mean this?
Yes.
This is just a connector. So if I drag this out and attach it to something that's not the same type, so this is a float and this is a string, it's gonna offer to make me a conversion node. And then I just printed it out. What we're gonna do next actually is deal with the damage.
He's got it.
All good?
He made it happen.
All right. So now that we have something that can damage us, we should handle that. That'll make it easier when we decide to do anyways here next time. So first things first, I need a health variable. And I'm gonna go ahead and make this a float just to make my life easier. And we'll set my default to 100 just because. All right. So now I have event any damage and I'm receiving the how much I was hurt and all that sort of stuff. I want to get my current health. I want to subtract the damage amount from my current health. I want to clamp this at 0. I also need to know what my max health was, so I can't go past that. If my health is never going to move, I can get a hold of my class default value. I'm not committed to that, so I'm going to go ahead and do a max health variable. And then we're going to go ahead and pop that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and set this to 100 as well. So now my health cannot go below 0 or above 100. And then I'm going to go ahead and set my new max health. I'm going to set my new health. And then we're going to check and see if I'm dead yet. So is my health less than or equal to 0? Now, less than should be possible, but we're going to go ahead and leave that there anyway. And then we're going to do something about it. So if I am dead, then we're going to quit game.
Yeah, I've got a question, Matt.
Yeah.
Would any of this be beneficial if we did in C++ for like a beginning student, or should this definitely stay in Blueprint for now?
No, so you should definitely stay in Blueprint for now. What you would want to do as like a beginner for C++ is after you build this out and you're like, all right, cool, we're good. Then you would go back and do the C++ stuff. Because so like once I'm done with this class, I can come up here to my tools and I can go to my C++ header preview and I can actually pick my third person character class. And now here's my header, here's my header for that. So it tells me max health is a double, view property, here's all of my declarations for the macro. It just makes it much easier for you. That plus once I actually have this written out, I didn't download it for this version yet. If you, I mean, 2 seconds here though. This will be mildly useful for everybody. If you go to your options here under your engine version, editor symbols for debugging is almost 40 gigabytes, but turning this on will allow you to double click on blueprint nodes and it will take you to the C++ implementation of that node.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see precisely what C++ function that node was calling and then just copy that and
Okay.
put it in your stuff.
Thanks.
It makes learning the API way, way easier. So, long answer short, no, you should always do it in C++ initially.
Blueprint
I mean,
initially, yeah.
Blueprint initially, and then move to C++. The only real, like, exceptions to that are things that you literally cannot do in Blueprint. There are a couple, but it's mostly for like kind of deep multiplayer stuff. There's a few like higher level things that like you have to kind of do, but they're usually boilerplate, just like 1 or 2 lines, something like that.
Okay.
But yeah. But like, yeah, like 100% once we're done with this, if you want to transfer it over into C++, that's not a bad exercise at all.
Okay.
I don't think you'll find much of a performance boost though.
Okay.
Alright. Yeah, so we got this part taken care of. I'm also gonna make my event dispatcher real quick because other people may or may not want to know about this, and I don't want to be responsible for caring about that. So I'm gonna go help change, and I'm gonna go ahead and call this dispatcher right here. And I'm going to add the inputs. For new health. Float. And then that in fact did change the name. Perfect. Alright, file save. And then I'm going to convert this into a little function just because. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this stuff here. Right click and collapse the function. And then this will be the desktop. And then health change amount. So not necessarily damage because this might be a healing thing and I'm adding a negative amount of damage. So and then this is gonna be is dead. Alrighty. So now this is much cleaner. Prevent any damage, pass in the damage for the health change amount, and returns is dead or not. And then in here we also are notifying other people, hey, this is the new health. I'm also going to actually, while I'm here, add an input for max health. And we're going to go ahead and just stick that right there. And that'll be for the math for later. So if this ever happens to you, I changed the name of the parameter to max health, and it still says new param here, which is why it's primed. So if I right click and refresh this, that'll change the name, and then I'll be able to do that. All right. So let me go ahead and come back out here to my event graph. If this is false just for now, I'm going to go ahead and print my current health. play and 90, 60, 50, 20, 10. Game over. Alright, so that works. Okie dokie. So, the next part of this is essentially that we need to display this to the player. So we're gonna go ahead and make our widget really quickly. Does anybody have any questions about any of this before we move on?
What are you thinking? All right, I guess we're all good to go.
All right, good stuff. So let's go back to the platformer thing. We're gonna go right click. User interface down here at the widget. Yeah. So taking the amount of health change, subtracting it from health. Clamping it between 0 and the maximum health, setting that to be new health, telling anybody who cares what the new health and the max health are, and then checking to see if we're dead yet, and then returning that as a Boolean value. All right. Does that make sense? Awesome. All right, let's. Let's go back into here and. This is going to be the player health underscore WBP. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually, you know what? I'm going to rename that. I don't like that name. About player status. I'm going to go ahead and grab a canvas, because this will be our top level. And then I want a progress bar. And we're going to stick that right there. And we'll grab some text. Stick that right there. And say health. Frame. And then this one here is going to be 1, and we'll make this red just because. Come on, save. So this is where you can decide if like how you want this to work. If you want it to be left to right, right to left, up and down, whatever. If you want there to be a marquee, how it should fill, all kinds of stuff. We're gonna just do the basic. The important thing to note with this is that it is looking for a percent, and it's using 0 to 1 to represent 0 to 100%. So if I pass the health in and my health is 96, this is not going to go down. See, watch. If I play 96, nothing changed. It's just way longer than it needs to be because it's only got up to 1. So anything above 1 is going to be full, and anything between 1 and 0 is going to actually be a thing, and anything below 0 is just going to be empty. So knowing this, what we're going to do is first of all, scroll to the top here and make sure this is variable, and it is. And we're gonna go ahead and call this the health bar. And I'm gonna, anchor is fine. We're gonna go to the event graph, and on events, pre-construct is fine. We're going to get the owning player pawn, because that's our third person character. We're gonna cast to the third person character. And we're going to bind, actually we're gonna assign. Health changed. And then when the health changes, we would like to set the health bar to a thing. So we grab the health bar variable for reference, and then we're gonna do set percent. And then if I take new health, if I take trying to think about it. See, I think it's new health divided by max health. Should give me the fraction that I want. So if I hit play now, let me double check something. Did we make a controller for this one or no? No, oh, okay, that's fine. Play, we're going to, actually, let's go there. Create widgets. Player status. Variable, we're gonna go ahead and call you widget ref, and we'll go ahead and add the viewer. We will probably move this to the HUD class then, but I'm not gonna deal with that right this second. I just want to make sure this actually works. So we hit play. So it comes up on the screen and boop. And I die. So now that works. If we want to make this transition over time, there's a couple ways we can do that. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but there is an animation. There is an animation section here, so we could make an animation for transitioning the timeline, and then play it when we want to do that. I'm not gonna get into that today. Just be aware that does exist. Does anybody have any questions about the binding, the widget, how we're changing the health, any of that stuff?
Looks like we're good.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead. So go ahead and pop inside of just health real quick. So, the branch and the quick game stuff should be outside. So go ahead and right click somewhere real quick and type in return. Perfect. Yep, add return node.
All of it.
Yes, the one that's highlighted at the bottom. And then grab that red pin that's going into the branch and plug it into the black space on the return. Perfect. Go ahead and grab the white pin coming out of the health change and plug that into the return node. And then we're going to move this branch and the quick game stuff outside of the function. Before we do that though, slide back to the left and grab the bottom part of the subtraction here. One that says 0. Grab that pin and plug that into the black part of the adjust health node above. The purple one. No, to the left, the purple one. Yeah. There we go. And then go ahead and click on the purple one, and in the details panel, rename that so that you know that's the damage amount or the the amount we're gonna change this by. And then click back on that. And then the output is gonna be your is that value. Go ahead and compile and save, and then let's go back out to the event graph. And then now go ahead and plug damage into the damage amount spot. Yep, and then you can copy the or you can cut the branch and the quick game out of the adjust health and move it out here now because you have your red pin. Yep, and then that should be. Oh, you need to also plug your health and max health into the thing, but that's next. Don't worry about that. Make sure you connect with the red pin so that it actually checks. Nice. And then go back inside your adjust health. And the last thing you need to do is connect the health to the new health and your max health to the new param pins on the call health change dispatcher. Yep. Perfect. And then now that should work. Go to your designer or your graph, whatever. So up in the right hand corner, it says graph, beside the word designer. Yeah, go to your graph. Right click on the you have to connect the pins. The blue pin isn't going to target. Yeah. Compile, and then that should be okay. And then the last part you have to do was actually add the progress bar and then set up the the change percentage based on your new health and max health. Okay. Cool. Anybody else have any questions about anything we did so far today?
Anyone? Looks like we're good. All right, good to go. Thank you.
Alright, good stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna comment all this stuff and then I'll paste that up. Next time we're going to. Next time we'll either do actual like AI, using a nav mesh, or we'll set up like a final goal or something so that we can actually, have a loop. But yeah,
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
yeah, no problem.
Talk to you in 2.
Sounds good, man. See you later.
Bye.